Support for Mission Nonprofit is provided in part by Thurston Talk.
Hello, my name is Andrea Capere, and you're watching Mission Nonprofit. Each month, we connect with local organizations and agencies that are making a positive impact in our communities. We've invited Cheryl Fambles, Executive Director of Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council, to talk about work and the economy in their service area. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for letting me be here.
So tell us about Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council. What is it that you do?
Well, workforce councils are the entities that provide workforce solutions for businesses and for job seekers and career builders.
And what service area are you working in? We're here in Thurston County, but there are a lot of communities that you touch with your work.
That's right. We're a 5-county agency, so we serve Lewis, Mason, Thurston, Grays Harbor, and Pacific counties. We're one of 12 in the state. So there are 12 workforce councils across the state, and our job is to work with all of those community members and with businesses to make sure that the economy can stay robust and vital.
And how do you do that?
You know, I think most people would know WorkSource. That's our primary outlet for services, and those work sources are the places that individuals can go to get the help that they need, whether you're a business or a job seeker.
And when you're working in this 5-county area, what are the priorities? There are several different pillars, or what is it that you refer to it as?
Well, we think about it in terms of industry clusters, because the work that we do is all about what it takes to make the economy healthy. And so that means individual jobs, it means industries themselves. And so I think in 2012, Pac Mountain initiated a pretty significant study that identified 6 industries. And those 6 industries are filled with the kinds of jobs that if we help people get to those jobs and help those industries and those jobs be successful, then we're going to have a stronger economy.
And what are those sectors?
So those are things like forest products, food processing, IT, healthcare, chemical, manufacturing, and plastics, and leisure, hospitality. And so you can imagine what that looks like in our region. So forest products, obviously that's, logging, it's timber mills. In food processing, people don't think about the amount of shellfish that's here, fin fish. The chickens that are in Lewis County, there's millions of chickens in Lewis County. We're trying to work through organics and cidering and distilling. That's all in food processing. But things like healthcare, our 2 largest employers are healthcare employers with the hospitals that are here. And so those are some of the examples of the jobs that we try and help people to think about, and the industries that we're really trying to help, so that when they get strong, our communities can be strong.
So that's hundreds of thousands of lives that are impacted directly by your organization.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's one of those things where you don't always know the impacts, because when we think about workforce development, we think about the pipeline. So, it takes a while to train somebody to be able to do effectively some of the jobs that we're talking about. You can't get out of high school and become a nurse, right? So we rely on our training partners. So those are the community colleges, those are our 4-year institutions, to really help get that pipeline ready. Our apprenticeship programs, if you're working in the skilled trades, it's why you start as an apprentice, because it takes a while to get to that level of proficiency. So that pipeline is something we really pay attention to. And there are many people, even if you haven't just come out of high school, that haven't yet been into the world of work, and for a variety of reasons. And our job is about trying to help you be successful in that world of work, in jobs that really matter in the economy.
And speaking of success, do you have any success stories that you could share? You've got, these apprenticeship models, you've got workforce training on the job, you've got so many programs available. What are some of those stick out success stories that you can share with us?
Yeah, when I think about the work that I do, I have just really hundreds and hundreds of those stories, but the ones that I carry in my heart are the ones I see every day. And so I'm going to tell you about a couple of individuals that actually work in my office. So we have an individual that was in an industry that was contracting, so he got laid off. And it was in a marine, boat building. And he came into our organization initially as a dislocated worker. He got retrained. He came with tremendous amounts of experience in the work that he had been doing in marine manufacturing. And he was able to apply that first as a caseworker, and then as someone who was really interested in policies and performance, and now he runs our policy and performance section. So I see him every day, and I celebrate the fact that he took that upon himself to transition out and to come into a place where he every day can help someone else by making sure that we're paying attention to the right thing to do for the customers that we're serving. Another example, we're really big on what's called work-based learning or career-connected learning. And so whether you're a young person coming out and you haven't had any experience, or you're someone who wants to transition into a new field, one of the best places and the best ways to do that is through on-the-job training, so being on the job. And AmeriCorps, I don't know if you've ever heard of AmeriCorps, but AmeriCorps is one of the premier work-based learning experiences. And so AmeriCorps come out, they're young professionals that don't necessarily have the experience that they need to go into the work that they want, but they come into our organization, they get, they're on a stipend, and they do very real work. And in our case, we had somebody who now has come back around, and she works with youth, which is where she had been before as an AmeriCorps, and is helping them to identify their paths and to move on to, I hope we see lots of those young people come back into workforce development. We run a project for military and military spouses in transition, and one of the women who now sets our entire program for business services is she's a former military spouse. Her husband's now out, but she has made immeasurable contribution to this region. And she was somebody who, military spouses, I don't think people think about the service they often give. They're moving around with their spouses. They're taking care of the home fronts when somebody is deployed. And their careers and their own development as a professional can sometimes suffer in that. So we ran a program to say, hey, what can we do to help you get back into the labor force? And now she's helping to set the tone for the entire 5-county region on what businesses can do to really employ those folks and to, help them do better for their business's sake, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because businesses need that labor force.
I love that full circle thing that you've got folks coming in and they in turn are using their own interests or their own passions, and through Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council are learning to help others as well.
Yes.
So we do have some video behind the scenes of what it looks like at Pac Mountain, and we'll go take a look at that now.
Whether you are a business or a job seeker, your needs come first as a WorkSource customer. Talented staff are available to provide a wide array of services for customers, including helping to determine what those needs are. As a business, you can be sure your needs come first for WorkSource's Business Services team. Each business is unique, which means your workforce needs are unique as well, and the Business Services team is here to help. The first step in providing business services is to make sure that you're signed up for WorkSourceWA.com. Creating a business account there gives you access to online job posting platform that job seekers at WorkSource locations are using. Once you're signed up for WorkSourceWA.com, the Business Services team can provide targeted assistance for your workforce needs. The menu of business services provides options for customizing services tailored to your workforce needs. Those services include everything from workforce planning to coordinating hiring events. If you are a job seeker, WorkSource also has resources for you. When you walk into WorkSource as a job seeker, the services available to you can be customized to meet your employment needs. Some of what WorkSource can provide on-site for job seekers includes access to employment specialists, job search resources, a variety of workshops on careers and employment topics, and much more. As a job seeker, your first step is signing up for WorkSourceWA.com. This connects you not only with the online resources that WorkSource offers, but to job postings for businesses as well. What if you, as a job seeker, don't know what your next step looks like? That's okay too. WorkSource and Pack Mountain can provide resources for the latest hot jobs and growing career pathways, including what education, training, or certifications are available to help you get to that next career. The WorkSource system aims to assist both businesses and job seekers in meeting employment and workforce needs. One success story that illustrates how this works is First Light Home Care, a WorkSource business customer who hired a WorkSource job seeker.
I actually heard about WorkSource through the Thurston County Chamber. When I was a new member, they talked to us about the different opportunities that employers had to find employees, and WorkSource was one of the resources they gave us. As a business customer, I was surprised with how involved the WorkSource process was. I thought I'd just be added to a list of businesses and hope that someone would pick me. But I actually met with someone at WorkSource who learned about my company, what my needs were, and what kind of employees I was looking for. And that was great to have such specific information. I've also been able to post job openings on the WorkSource website, and I've also had hiring events that were hosted here at WorkSource. And WorkSource not only held them here for me and encouraged job seekers who met my needs to attend, but they also promoted it on their website. I was having a hiring event here at WorkSource. My business was new and I needed to hire a good handful of people to get started. So I had a hiring event and many people showed up, one of which was Kathy. And I hired 4 or 5 people that first day from that one hiring event, which was enough to get my business started. And Kathy's been with me for the last 3 years.
Through the unemployment agency. They sent me a pamphlet and I came in and started using the resources. Very positive. Everybody here gave me different tools I needed to be able to use to find a job. And whenever I'd come in, they knew what my needs, what kind of job I was looking at, and would come right to me at the computer and say, hey, we've got this one we'd like you to look into. Different tools, like different classes, typing classes, they had resume classes I could use, job fair, they also how to interview. It had been a while since I've had to do an interview and I didn't know what to say, and they also, if I needed clothing, they would help me get an outfit to go to a job interview so I'd look professional. Yes.
I continue to use WorkSource. My business cannot grow, I cannot take on new customers unless I have more staff. We are in a one-on-one service industry, and so I rely heavily on WorkSource and others to be able to fill those positions. I'm constantly hiring. We would love to hire 3 to 5 people every month if the job seekers were available, and having this resource to connect us with potential employees is great.
Whether you're a business or a job seeker, WorkSource has the resources to help you find your own success story. Stop in or sign up at WorkSourceWA.com today and get started.
So there are a lot of changes in our local economy related to work. Can you share with us what are some of those changes that are impacting workers, and how is Pacific Mountain working?
Yeah. Let me think with you about job seekers and career builders, and then I also want to talk about employers, because there's a vast difference now in what's happening to employers as they're looking for the talent that they need. So if you're a job seeker, even as early as 10 years ago, people were still it was an easier activity. You either went to the internet, which was still relatively new for some folks, or the newspaper, and you circled, and then you went to the place and you filled out applications. Well, nowadays almost everything is done online, which is why we do a couple things for job seekers. If you have not, or if your viewers have not seen or been to worksourcewa.com, there are a tremendous amount of resources there for them. And that online set of resources is how many employers are looking for folks now. So you need to upload a resume, you need to make sure that you've got the support that you need to get a good resume into the system. Worksource.wa is built on the monster.com, so it can show your resume to local, it can show it regionally, statewide, or nationally, and you get to be in control of that. So that kind of change for folks that are not very comfortable, I mean, they're new.
Or entering into a different field, or have been in a job for a long time.
You don't know how to say those things. You maybe don't know how to write them up even. So WorkSource has a lot of workshops around that. How would you write a good resume? How would you take the skills that you had while you were doing this job and make them transferable to a new job? And how do you present that in a way that makes an employer say, yeah, that's the person that I want to interview? And then once you get into an interview, WorkSource can help you practice that, because it's terrifying being across the table from somebody asking you to tell them about yourself. And you're searching for, you're nervous, of course, but then you're also searching for what are the good examples. And the more you practice that, the better you get at that kind of stuff. So we can help allay people's fears by giving them information, by giving them opportunities to practice. And if you're an eligible person, and customers have different sorts of needs, and so some of our programs have eligibility criteria. So if you've been dislocated, if you're recently laid off, you are immediately eligible for our dislocated worker program. And some of those programs have paid internship programs. They have on-the-job training where we can subsidize a training wage for up to 3 months. We can do all kinds of things where we work with employers to get you into position. So I've said employers a couple of times.
That workplace piece,
Yes.
the employer.
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, employers, I think most people think about WorkSource as being just the place for career builders and job seekers, but it really is a place of resource for employers and people in industry associations, anybody that's really looking for talent. Being able to get into worksourcewa.com, or to come to a WorkSource and talk with somebody about what your business needs are. So I think, when we were in the Great Recession, employers had their pick because there were so many people that were unemployed. It was a really sad and dramatic time for not just this region, but our entire state and our entire country. We've come out of that now, and we've got unemployment that's the lowest that it's been since the 70s in a lot of places. And so employers have to figure out, how am I going to get that talent into my organization? So we can help employers think about that. We've got a set of business services that are specific for employers. How do you recruit people in this new environment? How would you train them so that they're wanting to stay, retain them? We've got multiple generations in the workforce now. And the days of, they'll just have to get over it, this is the way that it is, for many millennials, that isn't working. And with the labor market being that tight, they're going to go somewhere else. And now your business is going to suffer. So we're trying to help employers understand what's happening now in the labor force. How do workers want to see themselves in the labor force? What do they need? And what are you going to have to do as an employer to actually attract the talent that you need to grow your business?
So you touched on some of those challenges. What are some other challenges that are facing employers and those seeking work?
You know, one of the big ones that we've talked about before is the whole cannabis industry. Cannabis is now legal in this state with the rules, right? You have to be of age and certain amounts. But if you cannot pass a urinalysis, many employers won't look at you a second time. And people don't understand that marijuana will stay in your system a long time. And that's not a judgment that Workforce is making. That's employers, many employers do random drug testing. They do testing at the front end. And so that's something that's new. I think most people think that now that marijuana is legal, well, then they can't test me. Yes, they can, because employers, just like you can't be intoxicated on the job, right? You wouldn't want to show up intoxicated from alcohol at an interview or, on the job. Well, the challenge around marijuana, cannabis, is that it stays in your system much longer. And so young people, it's a message that I say to young people. Yes, it's legal, but many employers are not looking favorably on that. So that's a change that I think is pretty dramatic. I think also trying to figure out, since the labor market is so tight, we have to figure out where those untapped labor resources are. Young people coming into the labor force, that's, obviously, that's an obvious go-to. Let's make sure that they come out of school with a good sense of labor, of going to work, right? That college isn't for everyone, and it doesn't mean that you're not smart if you don't go to college. You could have a different preference. Maybe you want to be a plumber. Maybe you want to go into a 2-year program. Maybe you want to go into industry and start working right away and let them train you, right? So all of those are options that you want to pursue. But there are, since the market is so tight, there is another labor force that I really want to speak to, and that's people who have criminal records. They, most folks with criminal records did not murder somebody. They didn't burglarize something. They made a mistake. They went to jail or they went to prison. They paid their time, and they come out and they still need to work. They still have a tremendous amount to contribute to the economy. Many of them have families. They need to be able to work. And so to overlook the fact that they are, they've got skills, they're trainable, they're on a mission themselves to do right again. I've met hundreds of those kinds of folks who really do want to go to work and be contributors in their local economy. And I really encourage employers to look at them. And I encourage people who have the criminal record to not be despairing about it, because you can come to WorkSource and we have folks that can help you figure out how you say that, how you work your resume, how you practice telling your own story in a way that is positive and affirming of the fact that you recognize the mistake you made, you're fixing it, and you still want to contribute.
It sounds like they're, in addition to providing resources to job seekers and those that are employing them, that there's a lot of demystifying.
Absolutely, yes. It's demystifying the world of work, and it's valuing the world of work. One of the, I'm a little critical sometimes of how focused we are on this notion of careers, and I'm big in blue-collar jobs. Get your hands dirty, make a commitment to an organization, and do some work. People get up every day. What gets them up is their obligations often to work. And I think we have devalued saying jobs and work, like that's some sort of bad thing. And it's really not. Wherever people are working, we need to see that as a contribution, and we need to help them figure out, okay, where else would you like to go? You don't want to stay necessarily in this entry-level job. So what can we do to help you go to that next job? But all jobs have value.
Thank you for that. And with just a few moments left, do you have any parting thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience about your work, about the power of your organization, how people might be able to assist?
Yeah. Come to WorkSource, see what's really there. We are not the unemployment office. There were days when I think the unemployment office was what people knew. We are now a place of resource. We're a community resource, and we want people to feel like whether you're a job seeker or a career builder or someone just interested in the community, knowing, understanding a little bit about what is needed, come and visit us. And I think you'll be welcomed. I think you'll like what you see. And then when you or your neighbors or your kid needs to figure out how to get themselves into a job or get a better job, you'll know where to go.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you. You can see Mission Nonprofit on Channel 77 on Sundays at 4:30 p.m., Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Thursdays at 7:30 p.m., and Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. You can also catch us online at tcmedia.org. See you next time.
Support for Mission Nonprofit is provided in part by Thurston Talk.